Hello, I'm Dr. Ross Walker and welcome to the checkup. Stroke can occur at any age, but typically occurs over the age of 65. Over the age of 65, the two key causes of stroke are high blood pressure and an irregular disorder of the heart called atrial fibrillation, where the heart beats in a very irregular fashion and clots can form and be flicked up to the brain. So 95% of stroke over the age of 65 is caused by either high blood pressure or atrial fibrillation. People below the age of 65 can also be affected by stroke as well, and there are many other different reasons for that. So let's go through the 5 common categories of stroke. Number 1 is what we call atherothrombotic stroke, and what that means is you have the build-up of cholesterol, blood pressure and fatty plaques within the carotid arteries going up to the brain, or in the intracerebral arteries as well with the same process. These fatty plaques can rupture, a clot forms, and the part of the brain blood flow is blocked off. That's the commonest form of stroke, and that needs very aggressive, urgent management. The second category is what we call lacunar infarct. And a lacunar infarct is where people have a very dramatic presentation of stroke with extremely high blood pressure, but once the blood pressure comes under control, often they can get almost completely normal recovery after the lacunar infarct. So it's very important to make the distinction between the two. Number 3 is what we call cerebral emboli. So emboli means that a clot has come from another part of the body and gone up to the brain. Now the common site for that is of course the heart, but it also can occur from the aorta, which is the big blood vessel that comes off the heart. Little bits of clot can be dislodged and go up to the brain. So the commonest cause of cerebral emboli is atrial fibrillation, because normally our heart is going boom, 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 boom. We call that sinus rhythm. In atrial fibrillation, the top 2 chambers, the atria, are quivering and the bottom chambers are beating all over the place. When those atria quiver, little clots can form because you're not flushing the blood through, and then the clot can become dislodged and travel up to the brain, thus cause a stroke. And that's about 1/3 of the causes of stroke where someone has atrial fibrillation and dislodges a clot. Number 4 is some other cardiac source other than atrial fibrillation, and typically that's a thing called a patent foramen ovale. A patent foramen ovale is a small hole in the heart because in utero, when we're developing in our mother's tummy, we get all of our oxygen supply from the umbilical blood vessels. And then as the blood comes through the belly button, goes across the liver, goes into the right side of the heart, is pumped over into the left side of the heart across this foramen ovale. When we take our first breath, the flap closes, and so you have 2 independent circulations that beat together, the right side going into the lungs, the left side being pumped into the body. But sometimes there's a little patency between the right side and the left side. And if a clot forms in your legs, comes up past that slightly patent foramen ovale, the clot can cross across into the left side and cause a stroke. 25% of people wandering around the streets have this patent foramen ovale, a small hole in their heart that can be associated with stroke. So that's cause number 4, and the final cause is some form of blood clotting abnormality, and I'll talk more about that as this series goes on. That's the checkup. We'll talk more next week.